There we go. So, welcome back to another round of interviews. And today with me, I've got the wonderful Zara Wall. Hello. So, I've
You?
actually known Zara for a good couple of years now, haven't I? So, we've never actually met in person, but
No,
you wouldn't think
which
it. We've been
no,
chatting for like about an hour before this, haven't we? To be fair.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've followed your journey through. You were with Act Labs before, and I loved the products then. And then you've moved on to Oriflame now. I know you've had a bit
Yes.
of time off, and you've moved on to Oriflame, and that's another thing to like learn about because
I
it's
know.
Swedish company. Well, we're going to find out more about it anyway. But very excited because I've
It
not
is.
heard much about it before. Um, so obviously, for the lot of people that haven't heard about Oriflame, where did you come across it then? What kind of drew you to
So
it?
obviously moving in the same circles with Actilabs, which is now Urban Retreat, you kind of see other people moving into different businesses. And I started seeing this same business starting to pop up sort of here and there. And I'd never heard of it before. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to go and have a little look and see what it's about. Very similar ethos to the business I was in before, with the exception of this business has been going for 55 years,
Oh
and
wow.
it's grown, and it's huge worldwide, but not in the UK for some reason. So
Oh.
it's kind of having a little bit of a resurgence at the moment. And my team that I was with last time, my leader messaged me and said, "Oh, I've just joined this new business. Have a look at it." And it was Oriflame. And I was like, "That's weird." So I was like, yeah, let's join that. So it's a combination of just timing and just having that person give me a little nudge in the right direction. Things like personal things were kind of settling down, so it was a good time to find something to do for me again. So yeah, that's kind of how I came across it. It was just bizarre because it just kept appearing on my social media feed. It was like someone was trying to put
Like a
this seed in
sign.
my brain, and it worked. I was like, okay.
Well, that's good because that's kind of how like marketing works, isn't it? So it's
Yeah,
nice. It's good to know that it does
it does
work.
work.
It does work. But yeah, I know because you just mentioned about things coming to it because I know you had some difficulties with your young lad and anxiety and things. So I know you took some time off from business kind of between leaving urban retreats and kind of starting Oriflame. So how has it felt to kind of like get back to it now and
It's really lovely. It's the thing I love about it is it gives you something to focus on, and it's kind of my thing. So even though the stuff with my son is still going on, it's actually kind of my respite, and it's kind of my my self care, if you like. I work with a really lovely group of women. They're hilarious. We're constantly chatting in the evenings, coming up with business ideas, and just being ridiculous and telling rather rude jokes to each other. And it's kind of that community as well, but it's also building that business again. And I love makeup and skincare. I'm a little bit obsessed with it, as you know. And I love trying new things and sharing it with people. So this is kind of the ideal thing for me to be doing, and it is part of my own self-care, and it kind of gives me that respite from what's going on. I find I have a nice, like, when I'm doing my skincare in the morning, it's like my thinking time, like what I've got to do. And then in the evening, when I'm taking everything off again and doing my evening skincare, it's like my reflection time. It gives me that time to stop and kind of weigh up what I've been doing and just kind of revisit stuff. So it's like a form of meditation, but just with nice skincare involved.
I say, and looking fab because obviously your business is called 40 because
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, I mean this I don't know what it is because I interviewed Nicola and now it's like all these ladies that are in their 40s, but obviously the fabulous skincare, it's just like you wouldn't guess it. You just wouldn't guess it.
This
It's
is the
crazy.
thing. I'm now 45. In my head, I'm still like 18, but I'm 45. I didn't discover skincare until quite later on in my life. And it has made a huge difference to my skin. And I always find that little bit of extra care makes a difference. And also when I'm putting my makeup on, I see a difference. Like if I'm like everyone else, I'm not regimented. Like there are days where I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered and don't do it. Or I just don't have the time. But I notice the difference now. So I can see actually the impact that it has on your skin. And it does, for me, it does make a difference.
Mm.
But then I am like, I'm I love a pot of skincare. I'm a bit of a nightmare.
I know what I'm saying. For the first time in ages, I was like feeling my skin. I was like, oh, it feels a bit like dry, and I could see the. Like, I was like, I need to dermaplane. I need to. I
Yep.
need. It's been a while, and like afterwards, I'm like, oh, look how my skin's so shiny, and ooh. And it is. It does. It does make a big difference.
It
Like,
does make a big difference. I think people are like, no, skincare, but it does. If you get the right products,
yeah,
and you use them in the right way, then it makes a huge difference. It's definitely worth. Even if you just invest in one, like a
yeah.
moisture, a good nighttime moisturizer will make all the difference.
Oh, it is. I mean, because I joined, was it Tropic like last year? And as anyone does when you first start, kind of, one of those times, you go a bit mental. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you do.
we got all of the what's it called, like the starter pack and everything, and oh my god, like my skin, I look like a newborn baby, and I was like, oh my god. I just kept on like plying myself with all these different lotions and potions, but like you said, like I think after a certain time, I think sometimes, especially with self-care, you start realizing when you're not in a good place, when you can't be bothered, and it's
Yeah,
probably at those times where you need it the most.
yeah,
So I think it was interesting to see, like when I stopped, and then
yeah,
been like evaluating, like, why have I stopped doing my skincare? Oh,
yeah,
it's because I've stopped giving a crap, really, and that's not
yeah,
good. Okay, but what do I need to do? I need to push myself even more to do
yeah.
these things, because it is
Exactly.
self-care.
It is. It does make a difference, and I'm exactly the same. When things start to drop off, that's kind of my cue to sit down and think, right, what's going on? Obviously, feeling a bit rubbish, got a bit of stress. It's that kick to get back into it, and it does help. It does make a difference, and I think the beauty of of self care is that it can be whatever you enjoy doing that gives
Mm,
you pleasure and gives you some respite. So for me, it's sitting still, doing that skincare routine, kind of processing what's going on in my head. For someone else, it could be a walk in the woods on their own to process what's going on. I think when you find that thing that works for you, when you're not doing it, it does make you realize actually maybe things have slid a little bit and I need to take a little bit
mm,
more care of myself. That's the beauty of it. I think it's a really good trigger point. And
yeah,
we're all so busy now that, especially as a mum, you forget, you kind of always put at the bottom of the list of priorities, especially when you're
mm,
busy. So it's nice to just have that 5 minutes at the end of the day just to do something for yourself, be it skincare, reading, whatever,
mm.
meditation. I wish I could meditate. I'm just
No, there's too much going on in my brain to meditate.
I'm like, no.
They're saying that I did do hypnotherapy for a while, and there's something about, I fall asleep, so I'll do the hypnotherapy and I'll wake up and I'm like, oh Jesus, what happened? And that never happens normally, but obviously you go into a deep trance. So that's I definitely recommend, like if you struggle to meditate and like relax, that is something I would highly recommend. And you can get, like, I just
We
use a recording now, and it just still does it for me.
Wow,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
We use tapping. I use that with my son, and we have like a couple of audio kind of like routines that we use, and it's just tapping different parts of your face and your body, and
Mm.
it's really relaxing. It's surprising actually how effective it is. So we do a bit of that every now and again.
Oh wow.
It's good because it's quite tactile, but it's
Yeah.
also quite short. So I find with trying, because I've been trying to teach him obviously ways to help with his anxiety and stuff. He's only like, he'll be 13 this year, so he's not good at sitting still. He's a boy.
Mm.
He's like,
Yeah.
just like his mum, unfortunately. So he's finding things that he enjoys doing. So we found he loves music. He likes brown noise, and tapping has worked really well for him.
I'm sorry, you said brown noise.
Brown noise. So
Is that
I
is that
didn't
the sound of people
realise.
farting? I don't know.
Sounds like it should be. There's different types of noise frequency. I didn't know this. I thought it was just white noise and that was it, but it is. There's different types of frequency. So Jack likes mechanical noises like fans and kind of like a noise that is constant. So his is brown noise frequency, whereas white noise can be like nature sound. So
Mm.
there's different frequencies. So depending on what your needs are will depend on what type of sounds will work for you. And I didn't know any of this until I discovered that actually his frequency is brown.
Oh wow, that I mean that is some, I did not know that. And I'm sure anyone
I
that's
didn't know
watching
it
this
either.
on the
I just
replays will
came.
be like, what? Google? Google, what noise do I like? What's it called?
That's the thing. I was like, I didn't know there was different frequencies, but apparently there is. So yeah, he's a brown noise person, so that's what he likes.
Well, that's the thing, that you are very knowledgeable when it comes to things like the self-care and things, because it's not just though the Oriflame products or even the Aclab product. When you would do it, it wasn't just that got you into it, was the fact that
Yeah,
you were using it for self-care,
yeah,
and you even came up with your own worry journal, kind
yeah.
of trying to help people that kind of, you know, were going through similar things to you, and how to process it. I'd love to know a bit, tell everyone a bit more about your kind of writing side of things as well.
So I suffer with anxiety and depression as well, because I have Crohn's and fibro, and they're all very interlinked. You tend to find that if you have a chronic illness, the mental health stuff like links in. And I went through a period of really excessive worry. And it wasn't until I was right in the middle of it that I realized it was happening. And after I managed to get some therapy, and we were talking about this technique, it really helped. So I'd be going into work, I'd be sat on the bus, and all of a sudden, this thought that my house would burn down got in my brain, and then that was it for the whole day. It would literally invade my day, like just ridiculous things like, how would I get out of the house? Does Jack know how to get out of the house? Would he know what to do when there's a fire if he couldn't get to me? And my partner. And it honestly, it took over my life for about 4 months. So once I started seeing this therapist, and we tried a few different techniques, worry time worked really well for me. It's not an easy technique by far. Like when I say to people, this is not a 5-minute wonder. This is something that you have to practice every day and get into a routine with. And I'm good. Once I'm in a routine, I'm good, but it's getting into it that's difficult. And I think that's the same for most. So what you have to do is, when that intrusive thought or that worry pops in your head, you write it down, you put it away, and then you change what you're doing, you move, or you like change your focus. And then at the end of the night, you take all your thoughts that you've written down and you process them, and you have a limited time every day to then worry about your worries. So you divide them into two. So worries that you actually can action. So can you put a plan in place? Can you do something to alleviate that worry? And then your other worries. So I was doing this, and I realized that I was writing it on random bits of paper and chucking it in my bag. And then I'd get to the end of the night and I'd have, a jumble of mess. So I was like, right, I need somewhere where I can put it all in one place that doesn't look too conspicuous, like looks just like a normal notebook or a journal that can help me with prompts in. So I wrote my own because I was like, I can't find one, I'll just do it myself. So I developed the worry journal, and it is basically just a notebook, but in the front it has a bit about what intrusive thoughts and worry is, and the process that I've used, and different organizations that you can go to that might be able to help, and put it out there just for people in my position to use, because it was the one thing that I really needed and I couldn't really find without having to spend huge amounts of money on something that was massive normally as well, like a really big hard book that's not going to go in your bag. You don't want to be carrying this
So is it
A4
like,
folder.
is it
Like, hello.
is it A5? Is it smaller?
Yeah, it's A5. It's really thin. You can plonk it in. I think there's enough pages for a year in there, and it just helps. So when I'm getting into that cycle, I pick it up and I start using it again. And now I find that my cycles are much shorter, and there's much more gaps in between because I've developed this technique and this process. So it's really helped. It's not for everybody, like any sort of therapy, but it is something that's really helped me.
You know what it is with anything, like with journaling or anything at all, it's that it's remembering to do it, isn't it? Like, because
Yeah,
I've got like a little jet, and I am terrible. I think I only ever write in it when things are going bad, and I'm like, actually, it should have really, like, because I wrote, was it like, well, it was like, it didn't have any prompts in it. It was literally just a notepad. I called it my empowerment journal. So in terms of it would be like the moments that I felt like, yeah, I've done really well. And I found that actually it was so difficult to find positive things to journal about. Whereas
yep.
actually like my other journal, it's like everything's going wrong, it's like full. I'm like, oh my God. Do you have anything like a process where you, what's the word? Like to to make you remember to like write in it, and kind of, because you know that it helps.
Yeah,
And it's, how do you get into that like practice to make sure that it does become a habit? Because
it
until it
is
is a
really
habit, it's
difficult.
hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's all those old adages that say it takes 21 days to like break a habit. It's the same for making a habit. You need to be consistent. And what I found was, once I realized that the intrusive thoughts were happening, I had to literally stop what I was doing and get my journal, write in it, put it down, and then go and refocus on something completely different. And that was the process. And then in the evening, just making sure, so I had a set time every night, would be at 7:30. I would sit down on my own for 20 minutes, work through it, get rid of the worry. So I'd literally tear out the stuff that I couldn't do, or tear the page out and get rid of it. And then my to-do plan would be added to my to-do list of work for the next day. And it took about 3 months to get into that process. And
So it is scheduling in that time, isn't it?
it is. And it's like with any form of self-care, you have to make the time. And sometimes you literally have to write it in your calendar.
Non-negotiable,
Yeah,
non-negotiable. I have
at
to do
6 o'clock,
this.
this is what I'm doing, and that's my me time. And yes, it
Yeah.
can move, we all have things that change, things come up at the last minute, but it's making sure that that's always on your list of things to do for yourself every day. Because as mums, we are looking after other people. It is part of our role in society. You have children, you have a partner, you might have pets, family, whatever, friends, and we give to everyone else very freely and happily, but actually we don't take that same care and give ourselves that same love. So I know it sounds really cheesy, but it is true. You kind of need to give back to yourself to be able to carry on giving to everyone else, because
you can't fit, was it, you can't pour from an empty cup.
no. And I've tried, believe me. I've like scraped the cup out at times. I'm like, what? There's nothing in there. And I think sometimes you have to I've had some really low points, and I think off the back of those low points, I have learned that you do need to make that time for yourself. But sometimes you need to hit that really scary rock bottom to realize that actually you've got to take better care of yourself. And I think most people are the same. It's not until you hit that really scary point that you realize that it's really important.
Well, it is. I think my mum always says to me about business and things. She said, you always need to do the business. She says, I think that sometimes I do too much. I don't know when to stop.
Yeah.
But she says, I know that you need to do it because it's good for your, my brain to keep going and things like that. So she's always like, make sure that you're always doing it. And it is that kind of that thing, what you should be doing, but it's then making sure that you're not obsessing over it too much as well. Like I say, with the intrusive thoughts, sometimes you don't want to then, like you said, with the worry time, it's having that time, like, worry about it, but give yourself that time limit. It's funny you said about the burning building, and I used to have this intrusive thought about, what if we had a zombie apocalypse? I was like, oh my god. I was like,
oh no.
I was like, we don't have a basement. I said, I have to go in the loft. I'll have to go in the loft, and then I'll have to barricade myself in the loft, and I'll have to make sure. I was like, oh, but what if there's like bees? There's always bees nests and stuff in lofts. I'm like, what? Yeah, honestly, should have had a worry. These would come in like the middle of the night. I don't think I would be very happy if I went light on in the middle of the night. Just write down this worry that I've got.
I did find that I was having the same thing. I would dream about it, wake up and be like, oh my God, and would write stuff down. But by doing the worry time, I managed to retrain my brain that, I would do it through the day, and then I would sleep better because I'd had that worry time in the evening to process everything. I then would have less dreams, and, eventually it got better, but it does take a little bit of time. Your brain's and your psyche's so complicated and so complex.
I was just watching too many like 28 Days Later films, and that was my problem.
I'm a nightmare. I love like horror, fantasy, crime stuff. Love just stuff like that.
Us. People with anxiety shouldn't watch horror films.
But I love them. Jim's like, you're so strong. My partner, he absolutely hates horror films. He's like, cushion, is it over yet? If we go to the cinema, he's literally in my armpit hiding. I'm like, what is wrong with you? But then I'm the one that has the intrusive thoughts. So I'm like, nah.
I know. I think you've been watching Dharma. I know you've been watching Dharma. My husband is always like, he's like, I'm not in the mood to watch it tonight. He said, I think the first few episodes he watched, he says, I just wanted to hug the kids a little bit more, make sure that they never felt like like we didn't care or like that, just because we tell them off that we don't love them. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure we're not going to turn them into little mini Jason Darman. I think we'll be all right. Like,
yeah, I think
I
you'll
was
be
like,
okay.
I think he's got a lot more wrong with him than just the fact that he was a little bit.
I think there was a lot going on there that probably nobody realised, but it was very interesting.
Yeah.
If there's a good argument for self-care, that would be it. Like, if we did some self-care, he might have been felt a little bit better.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely. Well, I know you mentioned obviously because you've got Crohn's and fibromyalgia. You know, it's not been an easy road like medically for you. You've had
No.
diagnosis since, was it a teenager or was it younger than a teenager?
So I was 6 when I was diagnosed with my Crohn's. I'd had it for about a year and a half before that. It took a little while to diagnose because it was really rare back then. Back then, it sounds like the Victorian era. Well, not that old. But it was unusual in children, so it took a little while. It wasn't a particularly pleasant experience, but having it so young, I got used to it and I learned lots what I could and couldn't do. There's a lot of foods that I can't have, and I know I can kind of tell when a flare is coming on, so I now have, you know, things in place that I can do to kind of stop them turning into full flares. Like at the moment I've had I call it leg lumps, but it's erythema nodinum, and they're like painful legs that come painful bumps that come up on your legs, and if you have to rest for them to go and stay off your feet, because otherwise they turn into big yellow, purple, green, blue bruises that are really painful. So I've learned to kind of see the signs and be able to manage it. And then more recently was diagnosed with fibro, which is not the same. That's like, it just does whatever it fancies. I've been diagnosed for about 3 years now, and that is much more difficult to control because it doesn't really follow any set pattern, and it can come on all of a sudden and then it disappears again. That's a little bit more tricky, and I think since having the fibro I've had to invest more in resting and kind of listening to my body and doing those things to kind of help with my illness. So
I suppose that the business has kind of helped with that. I don't know if do you have, as my husband say, do you have a proper job? I say self-employed, it is a proper job, but you know what men are like, you know, sort of proper job. Like, oh God.
No, I don't. So I'm at home with Jack because he's not in school, with everything that's going on. That's like a full-time job, trying to organise that. And I've spoken about that.
Face it, being a mom is a full-time job.
Yeah,
unfortunately, the expectations are so high nowadays.
Yeah, it is. But when I was actually working as a porter at the hospital, because I'm very local to my local hospital, and I used to deliver all of the patient notes. They weigh a ton, is all I'm going to say. They weigh a ton, with a big trolley with like masses and masses of totes on it, and I loved it. I was walking 12 miles a day, and I got really, really ill after 9 months, and that's when all of my fibro stuff sort of really got bad, because I would get out of bed and it would be like I physically feel like I've just been run over by a bus every day, and kind of tried to push through it as what I would normally do with my Crohn's, and obviously that doesn't work with fibro. So it got very bad very quick, so it took a long time to recover from that. And so now I'm looking after Jack and trying to get him sorted. But this is a great, you know, having the Oriflame stuff, it's something that's
flexible,
separate,
isn't it?
it's flexible, I can work around it, I can do as much or as little as I want. You know, I don't have any sales targets. I haven't got a manager, you know, phoning me up going, where are you? I work with a really supportive group of ladies. There's loads of like training and stuff that we do, but it's all very much you know, pick and choose
your own pace.
And exactly. And that's perfect for now. You know, I've come from a retail background, being a retail store manager, so this is kind of similar, but just
a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah, not quite as hectic. I mean, I loved my job in retail, but it was mental. It was very mental.
Oh, absolutely, I can imagine. I used to work at Debenhams back in the day, and yes, come this time of year it was always like, oh God, it's
Christmas music starts in September, you know, Christmas gifts and all of the
Christmas music was on repeat. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
it's
fun.
like I know what's coming next because I've listened to it for the last 3 months, and then just
And then
yeah,
it was also knowing that come Boxing Day, the Boxing Day sales, you'd be in at work at 6 o'clock in the morning on Boxing Day. Oh, it was fun. Don't
don't
miss
get me
that at
wrong,
all.
I loved it at the time. I really like loved how fast paced it was, and I was working in young fashion, so it was great. I loved it. It's like my thing. But yeah, as you get older, it's hard going, and yeah, this time of year I don't feel for it. I feel really sorry for them. Like, oh my god. So I'm always be extra nice to retail workers this time of year because they're
Oh, I
under a lot.
know. Doesn't take a lot to be nice and
No, it
thoughtful to
doesn't.
someone. So, what is your favourite thing then to do outside of work? Obviously, I know you love your makeup and stuff, but is there anything else that I don't know? I want to know something.
I am I love interior design, but I also like decorating and DIY. I am a little bit of a menace in the house. So if I turned my camera around, which I'm not going to do, you would see that there is a dining room chair that is half upholstered, because I bought these chairs and I was like, I love the style, but I don't like the fabric. So I am a nightmare. So I will buy stuff, rip them to pieces and redo them. But I'm the same in the house. So we had new carpet laid on our staircase, so I decided that I was going to overhaul every single door, changed all the handles, moved all the locks so they shut nicely.
Once you start one thing, it kind of snowballs.
Yeah, no, I am one of these people that my brain just goes and I just run after it. I'm like, yay, let's do this. My other half is like, please can you just stop doing stuff in the house just for a bit. So I've got to finish the chairs before I'm allowed to do anything else. So yes, that's what I'm doing. So I love it. I love interior stuff. I did design at uni, so but I'm really into my interiors more than fashion, I would say, these days. But yeah, if I can paint it, change it, add something to it, recover it, then I'm there. Nightmare. I
It
love
could be a new. You could have that as a new part of your business. Rather than your husband being like, oh, I can't use that chair because it's not got any coverings on it. Like, it's for a customer, darling. Don't worry.
it's not for us.
Ours are finished. Ours are finished. Look there.
Yeah, well, let's just have to poke up with it now. Do you know what? I would have done it if I'd had outdoor space or a shed. I keep saying I need a workshop. Then yeah, I definitely would have gone down that route. But
Manifest
I
that.
know. My other half is like, oh my god. I'm like, I come home like most women go and buy handbags and shoes, and I come home with a power tool.
Why not? Why not?
I'm great at putting up shelves and stuff. I'm very handy.
I'm terrible at that kind of stuff, but
Oh no,
I don't mind painting and stuff. Is like I decorated my little boy's room. I was there with a roller. And I was painting, but my dad's by trade, he's a painter and decorator, so I'd say I learned it all from him. But he still came behind me and was like, "I'll just touch this bit up that you were." I'm like, "Oh."
It's a steep learning curve, I will say. Like upholstering stuff, especially, is a steep learning curve. I'm like, oh, don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But there is so much pleasure in taking something and renovating it and making it new for you. It's just, yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it.
That could be your slogan. Make it new for you. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. I think that's the end of the career move. When everything's settled a bit.
Yeah, let's manifest that workshop and then I could get going. My stepdad has an amazing workshop and I was like, oh, I wish you lived closer. And he's like, no, because you'd be in here all the time. And I was like,
oh. Well, I'm going to say, don't forget to catch Zara. For those that obviously are watching it'll be on the replay because we're recording it now. We'll be like Jonathan. Was it like one of those? Graham Norton used to record it, and then I have to be like, "Oh, we're recording it on this. Oh, yeah, it's Friday. Oh, it's this day." But no, I think being a mom, it's so hard to do things live because you just know things pop up and this, that, and the other. So we're doing it recorded just to make our life easy for us, but to still give everybody the chance to kind of catch up in it and get to know one of our lovely vendors. But you're showcasing on the 28th of October, so at the end of
Yes, I'm very
all good
excited.
things come to those who wait, as they
We've
say.
got lots of Christmassy stuff coming. I'm so excited. I can't wait to show everyone. I love this time of year. I'm like, yeah.
Ooh. What would you say? What's your favourite? Without giving too much away, what's your favourite product that you're gonna kind of be sharing with us?
My favourite product is a skincare product, surprise. But it is like, it's just 8 hours sleep in a jar. It's very good.
Ooh,
Very
that's a big
good.
teaser, that is. I'm very excited. 8 hours sleep in a jar.
I know. I
What's
need it on a
what's that?
regular basis.
What is that? I don't even know what 8 hours of sleep is like.
I know,
I think I go to
exactly.
bed at
That's
like
why I'm
midnight
like, you can
most
get it in
nights.
a jar. Amazing. It is one of my favorite products, and it's like, oh, it's a dream to put on and use. It's lovely.
Ooh, I'm very excited.
Finish
I can't
it.
believe I've got to wait this long to find out what it
I
is.
know.
But as they say, it just makes us feel excited a little bit
It
more.
does. Much more exciting.
So before we say goodbye, I've been asking everybody that I interview if they've got a small business that they would like to do a shout out to. So
So who would I like to shout out? So I have another fellow Chelmsford lady called Hannah, and she runs Floral Fields. Originally started out as FM World, and now she does her own personalised bags, sweatshirts, sliders, and all sorts. And it's absolutely beautiful. They are absolutely fantastic. And she's a super mum because she's pregnant again with her 5th child. I don't know how she does it. I'm like, how are you managing to do these things? So it's Floral Fields. I'll put a link up once the video goes live. Go and have a look, because she does the most beautiful slippers. They're really fluffy, and you can have your initials put on them, and they are amazing. But she does lots of like beautiful things.
Well, that's very exciting. Well,
I know.
thank you for sharing that with us. And like I say, pop that when it comes live in the group, pop that in so we can go and follow. Maybe she could be a vendor at one of our future events, maybe.
I know, I keep inviting her. I'm like, come and do this with us. And she's like, okay. I think she just feels like she's just permanently pregnant at the minute. So
well, yes, I think I had
she's like, once I get this one out of the way.
My limit was 2. Anyone that goes over 2, I do kind of look at them in a, are you okay sort of way.
I know,
like,
I could
really?
just cope with the 1 and the 2 cats that I've got. That's it for me. I'm like, yeah.
Well, thank you for talking to us, Zara. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll see you all soon for the next interview.